Perhaps Dylan Larkin did him a favor. That's what Wojo wrote in the Detroit News. I don't know about all that, but my question, how does he win? How does Steve Yzerman win in this messy fiasco that Dylan Larkin wants out of Detroit creates? Because sometimes in the media, we get accused of setting guys up to fail, being unrealistic, moving the goalposts. I want to set all that aside and define right now what success looks like for Steve Yzerman in a Dylan Larkin trade. Need your help for it, 248-539-9797. I don't feel like Larkin's doing him a favor.
No.
Because they're going to have to plunge deeper into a rebuild. They're losing talent down the middle. The public image of the organization is taking a hit around the league. So how does Yzerman win?
The only way I see him coming away with a win in this situation is, and it's really, really hard to do, because of the timeline of the quote-unquote Yzer plan going into its 8th year. They have to be better next year than they were last year. How do you do that by trading Dylan Larkin when you have to be better up the middle? You already needed a second-line center. Now you need 1 and 2. I don't know that path is actually possible. I do believe the only way that they are better next year is if there is a kumbaya moment, they mend defenses, and then Yzerman adds, whether it's through trade, free agency, however, hook, line, crook, doesn't matter. You add to this team, but you repair so that the relationship can be professional and serviceable, that Dylan Larkin is still here.
Oh, you think part of winning is keeping Larkin?
Because if you send him off, how do you get better?
Well, you're right. Optically, he will only leave somewhere that's competitive and a contender, and he'll be playing in the playoffs next year. And if you aren't, optically, you've lost.
So even before this, what is the only way that Yzerman looks better going into next year?
Playoffs, that's the next tangible step.
If the team is better. Yeah. And now this complicates matters, but the only way that he wins is if they're better going into next season. How is that even possible if you trade Dylan Larkin? Because the return, what do you get in the return?
So the only way he can win is to mend the fence.
I truly believe that. Or he just says, Dylan, I'm not trading you. I'm not concerned about mending the fence. I am going to expect you to be a professional.
Yeah.
And my plan was to add X, Y, and Z, or if it's just simply X.
We're going to go get Vinny Trocheck to be our second center who was on Team USA, who we were targeting at the trade deadline. Right? Just to use an example. Yeah. And we're going to be better down the middle, and we're going to win 3 more hockey games, and we're going to be in the playoffs next year.
Right.
That's how he wins, is keeping Larkin happy and in the fold. Okay? That's one answer. In the world where they trade him, I think you have to get quality over quantity in return. A lot of these proposals I'm seeing made up on the internet is where they get this youngster and this pipsqueak and this draft pick. And it's an argument of, well, one of them's going to stick. We've been accumulating a bunch of these dudes. They need to get a quality return more than quantity. And when I say that, it needs to be a player that you think has the upside of Larkin or greater. Not currently a player as good as Dylan Larkin, but a player you think has the upside of him or greater. So a player who's in his first 3 or 4 years in the league, or a player that's just younger than Dylan, that you say can be that guy in short order. It's the only way to win, right?
Yes.
Because those are hard to find. We've been detailing how hard it is to find quality centers.
Right. So in your scenario, quality over quantity.
Yeah.
Does that quality make you better next year?
Well, that with a proper offseason could, right? That would be the logic, is if I can get Nico Hischier out of New Jersey, who's a two-way center who scores 30 goals, a captain and a leader for them. We got to pay him. They get the cash savings because Larkin's cheaper, and they get another USA guy for Jack Hughes. That would be a move where you're getting a comparable player, and then your offseason adds around him. That's kind of what I'm talking about. I don't want a 22-year-old Urov from Minnesota that people think might be a second-line center. Like, Yzerman's not winning in that trade. Yzerman's not winning on the ice, in the hearts of Red Wing fans. It's just going to drag this thing further in the mud.
Right, and so I think the end scenario for both you and I is they have to be, for the only way that Yzerman wins, and this is even without the trade demand and all that stuff, he's in a position where this team has to be better going into next year. Now, it's complicated. It's been complicated because of the trade demand.
Yes.
And I agree with you. It has to be quantity over quality. Who's going to give up it has to be quality over quantity. Who's going to give up that quality?
Right. Very few, if any, teams are
and
going
it's probably not one of the three teams that are initially on Dylan Larkin's list.
Right. And I've seen some posturing, other insiders in the league saying, no, there's some other teams that are or will be on the list. They better be, because that's how you find the best return. Let's go to the phones, 248-539-9797. Again, we're going to lean on you guys. We want to define this ahead of time. So we're not doing a hindsight hit job on Yzerman. What is a success for him in handling the Larkin situation? Adam in Gibraltar, you're on 97.1.
Hey, good morning, guys. How you doing?
Good. How you doing?
Good. John, I actually agree with you on this. I don't know if they can mend fences because this is dragged in the mud already, the off season, and it could get even uglier. But if there's constant communication with this, with the trade clause, with the three teams, if they want to extend the three teams, or if Yzerman just wants to sit down with Larkin and be like, hey, what do I have to do to keep you happy here? I know I kind of screwed up in the past with, not adding at the trade deadlines when you thought the team was, ready to make that push. But I think they can add through free agency because they do have the cap. They can re-sign Cat if they wanted to. They can re-sign Kane if they wanted to. Not as a top-line guy, but maybe a second or a third-line guy.
Mm-hmm.
They could add more depth down the middle and at wings. I think their defense would be fine, but then I think they could mend fences that way. There's also reports, too, with Costa maybe on the move. Yeah. I know Kevin Weeks posted on X that
Utah.
He could be possibly on the move. I'm not sure if he's trying to get prospects back in that or maybe a second or a third line guy that's ready down the middle.
Well, Adam, I think the Costa thing, unfortunately, is another blemish on Yzerman's resume, right? This is a first-round goalie who 5 years in is not a lock to make the team next year. Right. And if he's not, he's waiver eligible, so they need to trade him. I think that's why his name is coming up here. Now, look, that doesn't mean you can't pivot off of him. Another team might be interested in him as a young goaltender.
Yeah, and then another thing, I think with the whole Costa thing, I mean, he has more goalie prospects in the pipeline with Augustine and that Paslava. I don't know his name. I can't really pronounce it, but this gives me an inclination that maybe if they were to move Larkin to Mini, a Wallstedt deal would be in place with that for him to be ready now to play in the NHL. And they do get those young prospects back. Yzerman could move those prospects for another top-line guy, potentially.
So you're saying a series of moves as he maneuvers the chessboard.
Yeah.
Brings in a goalie that does not help them score 5-on-5. It does not help them play better hockey with the puck or retrieving the puck. But then you use that as step one of three.
Right.
Because there's a lot of steps that they're going to need to take if they're going to lose their number one center.
Sure. It's extremely intricate and complicated if that's the route you go.
Dominic texts in, all of a sudden, Dingler is my favorite athlete named Dylan. Look, I know people feel a certain way about Larkin. They're just going to have to make the most of this situation. Wojo says it could actually be a favor. This could be Larkin doing Yzerman a favor. I will not go that far, but how does he make this a success?
Yeah.
How does he win the Larkin fiasco? It's 97.1.